last year in particular, I was really trying to I was on this mission, and I feel like it bared fruit for sure. And it was basically seeing like, what is my absolute physical limit?
Right.
And I was pushing myself so hard. I was running and working and trying to make it to as many yoga classes and lifting weights at home and just everything else that life involves. And I'd have like a day off and I'd pass out for like 18 hours or something, you know?
Right.
And so, but it was good because now I know when it's like I'm getting close to that point, I need to insist on having some rest or something or some kind of recoup. And so it was good for that. And but it's just like you guys say in class too, you know, make sure this pose is sustainable and make sure this place you're positioning yourself in your life mentally and, you know, occupationally and with your career and your family and spiritually and all these things, make sure that's something that's sustainable. It's something that has to happen every single day for decades.
That's it.
And if it's gonna burn you out in a week, then you're not gonna last. But
The longer I practice yoga, you know, the poses that are my favorites aren't the ones that would look pretty on Yoga Journal or and I'm so okay with that. Like I know that arm balancers are really pretty and they're fun and they can have a lot. They can be empowering. There's a lot of things about them, but I'm really into sustainability and that balance and, you know, functional movement and knowing where your limits are. So, you know, like super poses that when I first started, like boring, you know, like locust pose, right?
Sure.
Right? I was like, you know, if you want to do back bend, you go into like this full like wheel and that's so pretty and look at that on Yoga Journal. But now if I go into wheel, like it's rare because just because you can do it doesn't mean you have to do it. For me, when you do like locust pose, that is like going to lead you into your life with paraspinal muscles engaged, and you're going to be able to strengthen and hold up and stand up straight and walk. Like, you know, like, yes, the wheel is beautiful. It photographs very well. You know, like locust pose.
Does, especially on a beach.
On a beach. Oh, you do that? And I'm like, it's not about that. And you know, I guess that always was confusing for me because it wasn't like that for me, but I'm like, oh, I'm a yoga teacher. Like, I probably should like do something cool. You know, we've had this conversation. We're like, oh shit, we have to do this. So when On the Mat started, we're like,
was that our very first photo shoot?
It was.
We're
like, they're like, so what poses are you gonna do? I was like, I don't know. I really, really like Warrior 2. You know, like they were the same. I'm like really like boring side angle, like these poses that are just that don't look pretty, you know. And then we'd get the photograph reel back and be like, oh god, this is so bad. But I don't care. Like I really, it's come to that point where I'm like, I don't care about that.
I don't care either.
I don't. Yeah, I don't need to do that to my body.
But you know what? I think that's good though to have that attitude, because I feel like with that attitude, you can better serve your students.
Absolutely.
Because if you're coming for a place where you feel that only the pretty or fancy poses are worth doing, that's what you're going to take into your teaching.
Yeah.
Right?
And then isolate so many people.
So many people. They'll feel uncomfortable to come to your class.
Yeah.
Or like not good enough, or I can't do this, or why am I here? So I think that's just a great attitude to have. It's like, how do you serve your own needs? It has nothing to do with anybody else's doing or anybody else's Instagram pictures or anything. It's like, how do you serve your needs? Like physically, mentally. It has nothing to do with anybody else. Yeah.
Wicked.
Yeah.
Ali, in particular, I was interested in you started talking about your body starting to kind of burn out on you or break down, and it was time to introduce something like yoga. How old were you at the time, and what was the regime like?
So I played basketball, well, probably every day. Like and not, if you're not just playing basketball, you're practicing, you're running through like hardcore jogging all the time, sprints, weight training, like a bit of weight training, but you know, never stretching. That was a waste of time, I would think. You know, back then, like I just be like, no, like okay, like let's go, let's play, right? So, I guess when I finished, I was probably 23, and then I went back into it a bit later in life. But when I finished playing basketball, I always thought that in order to, I just, it had to be high intensity for me. That's how I was wired. Like, I've got to run, I've got to go, my heart rate, that's just kind of the way I was wired. So the thought of yoga, like, terrified me. And also I was like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, that's bullshit. Like, I'm not going to go breathe in a room with people. Like, I want to go and, like, play defense and, like, like, dive on the floor for basketballs. Like, I love that shit. Which is probably why I do the boxing now.
Right.
A little bit above. But
Balance.
the balance, right? Like I said to Michelle, sometimes I just want to beat the shit out of a heavy bag.
Yeah.
Right? I just do. And then I want to go and I want to practice yoga and lay in Shavasana for 30 minutes. Right? And then I want to beat the shit out of a heavy bag. So yeah, I had shoulder injuries, my ankles were like, and they still are. They're messed up. There's all these the changes that have happened because of yoga are incredible as well. But yeah, it was the burnout of my body because I only knew of one way to exercise. I didn't know there was another way because yoga was really, wasn't a big thing. Now, like Tori, she teaches to all these athletes. That's what she does. It's incredible. I love it when I see. We had this conversation outside the studio before.
Yeah.
I love when I see like these tight people come in. They're like, I can't do yoga because I'm tight. I'm like, you're the best person to do yoga.
Yeah,
this is
you
why.
need
Like, I wish that I had have been introduced that it was, and it would have had to have been forced part of my practice schedule. It would have had to be forced when I was younger. I'd be like, no, but the benefits now I see, right? And I wish that it had been introduced younger. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, Michelle, because you were talking about how you kind of came into yoga from that spiritual side of things where I might not recall it entirely, but you were explaining how you're going through having Sheldon and the things with his father and that you were just kind of started searching that longing. Do you mind commenting on some of that a little bit more? Or maybe what was it like trying to sift through information from multiple sources, trying to work your way towards, whatever you were aiming for? You knew things weren't right and that they could be better, and then you're on that path looking. And how was it when any other things that you picked up along the way other than yoga, perhaps?
Well, I just started with that. I just started looking. And really sitting down and looking at myself, right? Like, when I was younger, I had this like sort of big chip on my shoulder about, my childhood or how I grew up or who my parents were or whatever. And, it was a totally different perception, right? And now, I have a completely different perception of the way it was now because I sort of had to be forced to just kind of look at myself and like what the sort of inner asshole, for lack of a better term, like what is my inner asshole? Okay, like so I can say my mom did this and my dad did this and person A and B and C did this to me and whatever, but like well, what was my contribution to that? Like how did I get myself here? Right? And like how can I be accountable, and from that knowing how can I move forward? And it was just like I said, I was going to the Shambhala Center all the time and delved into yoga, did a lot of just reading of different, like Stoicism or, Taoist philosophy or Buddhism or whatever it was, just kind of looking searching and just looking for something that kind of like resonated or, I think we're just in a place where there's so much information out there now. Like it can be overwhelming, whether to do with like physical exercise or diet or, like religion, spirituality, whatever. There's so much different and opposing information coming at us that sometimes we're like, oh my God, what the hell is right and what is wrong? I'm like,
yes.
But it's just like, you got to be like, well, what feels right to you? does this feel right to me? Does it feel good for me? Okay, well then do that. And if it doesn't feel good or right for you, like, it's not for you. Don't judge it. Right. Try not to have too much opinion on it. It works for somebody else, I'm sure, but it doesn't work for me. So it's just like it's just like a navigating through, okay, now this works for me, and then now this works for me. And, I don't know, just trying to stay like conscientious of why I'm doing what I'm doing at any given point. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Also, like, it seems like you're touching on this, the idea of something resonating with you. It's like there's this kind of inner compass, and when things just kind of line right up, it just, that feeling comes in. It's not just like an idea, it's a real feeling in your body when things are feeling like they're the right thing.
It's like trusting your gut.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, but then it's also so interesting too how, so we have that in us. There's that inner guide that I think learning to become still kind of enhances, because it's such it can be so subtle. It's like the idea of like the heart whispers to you, whatever. But then there's also this, you talked about the inner asshole, there's also this other part that just kind of wants to wreak havoc, or kind of wants, it's like the human duality. It's like, it's not entirely clear that all of our intentions are pure, and it's important to, like you said, be conscientious and watch it yourself carefully, and because it is so easy to start harboring resentment against somebody, or to let that thing build underneath the surface of someone's interaction, when that tension between the two people start to just kind of, and then you talked about that too in your story with pretending you were okay for so long, like saying you're okay, I'm fine, and then it just erupted eventually.
And it really felt like a volcano. Like it did, because I'd ignored it for so long. I didn't search, right? I ran
think
away.
That's the thing that you and I have in common, and we've talked about this before, is that when you let things build up, anxiety kicks in.
Yeah.
Like big time anxiety. And then you're trying to like navigate through the anxiety,
manage
and
it,
figure out how do I get through this, because you're not letting yourself just
sit with
be
it,
still and sit with it. You're trying to fix it and change it and
fix it.
run
And I also
away
had the thing where I was trying to manage everybody else, to make sure everybody else was okay with how I wasn't okay, even though I was okay.
Yeah.
So I'm like trying to let everybody else know it's okay. Like, it's okay, Mom. It's okay. I'm good. I was just so not okay, and it came to such a breaking point, like really a humbling breaking point, which is okay. And I'm actually like grateful that this happened, like, I mean, I'm 32. I had to move in with my parents well, not this dog, the dog up on the wall, and my child, and like for 4 months. And it's just like, okay, I went from being like, I'm okay, to like, nah, people, I'm not okay. But was part of it, and that's part of what made me want to become a yoga teacher, because I wasn't even sure why I wanted to become a yoga teacher, and I didn't even know if I wanted to teach yoga, really. I was like, I'm going to do this because it helped me, and I don't know, but I'm going to do this. And but I knew that I wanted other people to be able to know that they're okay somehow, And it wasn't even that somebody had to like read something, because that Michelle and I are the same thought about this. Like, no one had to read this spiritual text to me or read these beautiful quotes. It's not about that. The practice will do that.
Yeah, for sure.
If you it is yoga, and if you're still and you do that and you're breathing and you're alone with your thoughts and present, all this shit's gonna come up. You don't need someone to read this quote to you.
That's tell you how you need to feel.
Telling me how I need to feel. No, that was never it. It was like, stop smiling. That was it. Holy shit, stop smiling. Stop asking, like, that was like revolutionary to me. So yeah, that was kind of, it can be very simple. The practice in itself is very powerful.
Yeah, I like that you guys emphasize that an awful lot in class too, about that you guys are all having your own individual experience on this mat in this room right now through this practice. And
kids coming in, just give a little FYI.
Oh, for sure. Children.
Hey bud, shut the door. Hi.
Hey Finn.
Hi.
This is Michelle.
Hello.
Hi.
This is Taryn.
Hi.
Hey,
Hello, Finn. Of course
You
we
do
know
know
Finn.